Hello guys. So in this video I want to introduce you to the ever-demand and also possibly to ever-Gauzy projects, platforms, yeah. From the perspective of how the system's working and also from the code perspective, yeah. So from architecture and design of the code. Yeah, so both projects are actually monorepos, right? So you have almost everything in one repository. You have a pretty good, I hope so, README file that give you some introduction about the project and about how to run it, yeah, how to build it, how to run it, and how to set up it. Of course, there can be different issues when you do it on your computer, can be different operation system issues, Node.js issues. Sometimes our code is broken. I don't recommend to use Docker for now. I mean, it's overcomplicate everything. So we recommend Docker mostly for production or for people who want just to try the demo, yeah, quickly. But for developers, I think it's better if you set up it all locally because you will work with it for a long time. Yeah, so you usually check this section that's called manually, yeah, and then you read it and you understand what you should do. Now we using Lerna, and it means that you have to do some additional steps if you want to build the project locally. For example, you should run yarn bootstrap because it uses Lerna to bootstrap the packages. Yeah, so it's a kind of it will install the packages, but also will wire dependencies between them. Yeah, so for example, if we have our own packages, in order to use them in one of the application in the repo, we have to run this command yarn bootstrap. Yeah. Now, so basically, the ever-demand platform contains multiple different applications that work together and connect to the single API. So we have admin dashboard, which is basically Angular. At the moment, it's Angular application, web application, yeah. Then we have a tablet application that is done with Ionic framework, which again it's like a web. If you are not familiar with Ionic, so it's basically the same web technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, just running in the tablet web view, like tablet browser, which you don't see here. It's running in background, yeah, and yeah. So that is a application for the merchants, yeah, or for the shops. So they will run this application on the tablet device and be able to get orders information from customers, be able to process these orders, control deliveries, control the availability of the products, and so on. Yeah. Then another part of this solution is basically we call it mobile shop, or you can call it mobile ordering application. Yeah. So that is what end users or customers get, and they can make orders within this mobile app. And then they wait for delivery of the service or delivery of the product. So they can see orders history, they can pay here, they can browse products that are available at the moment. Now, Ever platform is very focused on vacation of the people, yeah. So it's tracking vacation of the carriers and also tracking where the customer vacated. And it's supposed to, give customers ability to track delivery in real time on the map, like where is the carrier at the moment. So a lot of functionality goes to the delivery stages, yeah. And the products catalog is also, it's working with two things. It's working with vacation, so it shows you the products that are close to the customer, yeah. And also it has some real-time capabilities. So, for example, if the product stock is all the stock is used and there are no more products, so the product will be removed from the screen automatically. And the same happens if the new product is added by merchant and set some availability for it, it will automatically appear in the feed. So it's relatively real time, or how you can call it, reactive, yeah. And we are using WebSockets in the mobile app, I think. Then in the dashboard we are using probably WebSockets and maybe also GraphQL. I mean, it's not dashboard, it's a tablet. We call it merchant application, yeah. So there we're using, I think we're using WebSockets and GraphQL, but maybe I'm wrong. And in the admin, because it's a rich functionality, we mostly, I think, use GraphQL, but also possibly somewhere we may be using WebSockets. Yeah, so that is the main parts. Plus, we also have application for the carriers, yes, so, or drivers. So they deliver the products using this application, and it allows us to track location of the driver at any moment, and that allows us to show where is the driver currently when she or he delivered the package or service. Yeah, so there is also web shop. Yeah, so we have a mobile shop in Ionic. We are now working on the Flutter version of mobile shop. We also will start working on the React Native version of mobile shop, yeah. And then we have shop for web, so it's desktop or laptop resolution web shops. They done with Angular. This project is actually very, very simple and small for now, yeah, but it will be much bigger later. And then we started some time ago Gatsby web shop, but we never really finished it. So we have this one as well. And we will be adding more shops. We will be adding Next.js web shop, yeah. So basically React web shop using Next.js, and yeah, for that we are going to use some other open source project, which we will just create a connector for that and set up it. It's called the Vercel Commerce, yeah. So if you Google Vercel Commerce, you will see that they have a open sourced commerce storefront. Yeah, open sourced React based storefront. So we are going to use this. We will just need to create provider for that framework, and then we get to this list of providers that work with this shop. So we don't need to write the code ourselves. We just need to write the providers, and then there will be a web shop like this, and the people will be able to order from our system using this shop. Yeah, so that is, I think, overview of the main apps. Yeah, then we have so the backend is we call it core. The name core comes from the fact that we want to have it as a headless system. Yeah, so the core is basically the core of the platform, and then all the other things are just pre-built clients. Yes, which tomorrow we can add more and more of them, and other people can build own clients. So we call it headless because the idea is that the core is just basically where we should focus on, and all other applications are just connected to this core API, to this headless system. Something like a Shopify, if you know. So they have also recently released the headless Shopify. So it's basically APIs, yeah. And then you can build the clients in any programming language, in any platform. So this is a core and the common. So the common is just some code that some package that is used in the in different applications, and it's for backend. Yes, so it might be used. I think maybe also can be used by frontend. I'm not sure, but I think mostly it's for the backends. And the common Angular is just a common code for Angular, which is used by some applications that are Angular, for example, WebAdmin, maybe actually even Ionic, because in the Ionic we are using Angular as well inside Ionic, yeah. So this is a common Angular. So that is the current structure. Of course, over the time we will add more and more. Will be more smaller packages, then plugins and everything. But for now, this is the structure of Ever Demand project. We deploy it. We are currently actually building the deployment to DigitalOcean. Previously, we deployed or manually to Amazon, or we used some other projects based on Pulumi. But at the moment, for simplicity, we focusing on the deployment to DigitalOcean Kubernetes cluster. So we have basically the code in deploy here, and you can find for every application how we building it, and then in the Kubernetes folder we have a manifest how we deploy it to Kubernetes. This is all a work in progress. And at the moment the demo is not yet working for the EverDemand platform, but hopefully soon it will be. Then we're using some Circle CI to build the packages. We used it initially, so we keep using that, but we also start using a long time ago actually. We start using GitHub Actions that doing builds and deploy and builds of Docker containers. So there is we have used different stacks, in this different tools for deployments and different targets where we deploy. We also have support for. We started support, I think, for Docker Compose, but it's also not finished right now, I think. So I don't recommend to try it yet with the Docker Compose and with Docker for the EverDemand. You should install it manually. You should run it manually on your computer, and if you need on the servers. And later on, we will suggest how to deploy it with, how to run it with Docker, and how to deploy it with Kubernetes. Now about some few more things about the technologies that I use it here. So of course, as you understand, we are using Angular, we are using Ionic, we are using on the backend we are using Node.js, of course. Everything is a TypeScript. Then in the backend we also start using Nest.js here. I don't think we start using TypeORM, but not much. I mean, we just try to connect it here, because previously we used our own ORM called Pyro that allows to utilize Mongoose, library from MongoDB to connect to Mongo, So it's like abstraction on top of Mongoose. We call it Pyro, and it allows you to basically use MongoDB more easy, and especially with reactive services with RxJS and so on. But we also have GraphQL, so almost every type of entity you have GraphQL models, you have resolvers, types, and everything like that. Yeah, so basically we are using GraphQL in this project and also Nest.js, but not that much. So mostly API is GraphQL or WebSockets. And for WebSockets, as I said, we have own micro framework which allows us to build automatically this WebSockets connectivity based on the models of the entities and yeah, so it's a little bit complex in that part. Not standard, I would say, but one of the nearest goals for the core is to actually use more type ORM with in parallel with what we have. Yeah, so we are not going to remove anything that we have at the moment. We are going just to extend it, and we want to have also REST API, which we don't have at the moment. I think almost don't have, maybe a few methods. So as I said, it's mostly WebSockets now and GraphQL. We also want to add REST API with Nest.js, of course. For the and yeah, and because of we are going to use more Nest.js, so we will use type ORM, and that will allow us to connect to different databases. Yeah, not only Mongoose. So that's one of the large tasks that we have to do in the near future. You can see more about the project that we are using here. Yeah, so that is about EverDemand. Now about Gauzy. So in the Gauzy, amount of applications is smaller, I think. By the way, you can see that the structure is a bit different. Yeah, it's because we started Gauzy later. And so in the Gauzy we put applications into the apps folder, but in the EverDemand we have applications in the same packages folder. So in the Gauzy we use a little bit different approach. We use also NX workspaces or NX, the project NX. You can see it in NX dev, yeah, or yeah. So that is a project that we used initially, at least, to run the repo, to create a monorepo. But then we actually added also Lerna because I think it gives more capabilities, and it's also unify Gauzy with EverDemand. Yeah, so both projects are using Lerna. Yeah, and then so applications here in Gauzy, you have of course API, which is again like a core. Yeah, better name probably was core, but we call the core. We have a core package. Yeah, so in Gauzy we get into a little bit bigger architecture, in the sense that you have a core package where almost all backend logic located, and then you have a application that called API, and that application inside basically just using core. So it's just a wrapper around the core with some teeny logic how to initialize the core, yeah, how to bootstrap it. This is all the code of the API. You see that it's almost nothing there. Exactly because it is wrap core package. Then in Gauzy we also have desktop applications. Yeah, one called desktop is basically like all-in-one. So in this desktop we have Gauzy frontend, we have Gauzy API running there inside, we have database even running inside, SQLite database. We have timer running there, so it's like all-in-one solution that we call desktop. In reality, it's mostly just wrap our API, our user interface, I mean web UI, everything inside the desktop using Electron. Yeah, so we are using Electron framework, and it wraps everything inside. Everything else that we have inside this desktop app. Then we have desktop timer. So this is much smaller application. It's just a timer that you can use to track your work time, which hopefully very soon you will be able to run on your computer. And if you need it to track a time, so you can use this. We are doing now internal testing with our with selected employees in our company to test how does it work. Is it tracking time precisely, or there are some issues there? So this is how it looks like. Yeah, this is a timer application for the desktop. It can work on Macs, on Windows machines, on Linux even. Because it's built with Electron, yeah, so it's a web technology. It's the same elements that you use in the web projects. It's again Angular. We are using Angular here. Yeah, then we have server. Yeah, so the server is basically more like a desktop application again, like a Electron-based desktop application, which just run API inside of it, yeah. So someone who want to set up Gauzy on their servers, they will download the server application for their operation system. They will run it, and it will basically inside it will run API. So they don't need to install API manually, do anything. They just download exe file or executable file for different OS and run it, and they get the server running, and they just need to download desktop application to connect to that server, or set up somewhere the separate Gauzy UI, or this server actually also running Gauzy user interface, so other users can connect to it from browsers. Yeah, so it's like a host. It's like a web server, yeah. So this server inside runs API and also web hosting. Yeah. We have somewhere the diagram about all this architecture for the desktops. I will try to find it later. Yeah. Then the last part, which is actually one of the biggest part, is a Gauzy user interface. Yeah, so that is what you see when you go to the Gauzy website, yeah. When you open Gauzy in the web browser, the front end of the Gauzy is basically that we call it just Gauzy. Yeah, maybe it was not a good name for that, but that is how historically it was done. So this is a user interface that you see. It's all front end of the Gauzy, built with Angular for now, and yeah, we have also end-to-end tests for this functional tests, basically for this integration tests for this user interface. Yeah, they didn't cover yet everything, but they cover already a lot of the functionality. Now, just to explain more, the focus of the Gauzy, the same like the focus of the EverDement, is on the core. Yeah, so both projects, we see them as a headless systems. Yeah, basically like APIs that you can use from our own applications, but you can also use them from from your own applications. Yeah, totally different applications, and that's why basically the user interface a little bit sucks. Yeah, because we do not intentionally, we do not want it at that time when we start building it to put too much effort into how it looks like, because more important was to make sure that we cover all the functionality that we need. Yeah, for example, time tracking system with a database storage for time tracking information and things like that, payments, invoices, storage in the database. Yeah, so basically, yeah, the focus of our projects is on the backends. We want to make them as best as possible, and then we will improve the Gauzy user interface. We already started on that. We have designers who work on now on the designs, so we'll have a much better user interface. But that's not the main goal. Another thing that we may start in Gauzy soon is another front end for it, built with React, which will be done in parallel to the current Angular-based UI front end. The reason we want to start with React is because there are much more packages that we can use there that are richer, like for example Kanban boards, or some other things that are hard to find in Angular, hard to build in Angular. So over the time, so initially we will build like a clone of existed functionality of Gauzy frontend in React, but then over the time we will start adding there more features that are hard to do in Angular, and then we will add them into the Angular. So initially React project will be behind, but then at some point it will be forward, and the Angular version will catch up with new features that we put into the React. That's how we see this process. Now, another thing that we want to build a little bit more modern interface, which I don't think needed for Angular version. For Angular version, we will just make a nice looking interface, and that's about it. But for React version, we will try to build, more modern approach, something that, something like if you use the Notion, so the Notion kind of like a standard waitily for the modern approach to building this type of web user interfaces, so web front ends. So we are going to build similar thing for Gauzy. That will be very modern. That will make it very modern ERP, CRM, and HRM system. So if we go back to the technical things, so in Gauzy we split it a little bit more. We have again, we have the same common packages. We also have configurations, and we have authentication and separate package. So we start using more packages or libraries if you want, the desktop related, and most important, we start building plugins. So they are not yet completely working. We're still working on that, but the goal is to have plugins integrated into Gauzy, and then we will have plugins integrated into the Ever-Demand platform. So that is about the structure. In the Gauzy, we are using again, we are using Angular at the moment. We are using Electron to build desktop apps. We are using Nest.js on the backend, and here we have really heavy usage of Nest.js together with TypeORM to connect to the database. And in this case, we using relationship databases like Postgre or SQLite or any other. So Gauzy potentially support almost any relational database. Much harder actually with Mongo, so we never tried to run TypeORM with Mongo. There will be some changes for that needs to be done. So currently we have a situation that Ever-Demand working well only with Mongo, and Gauzy working well probably with at least few databases, but not Mongo. So that is a problem that we need to solve also in the near future. To make sure we unify everything, that it's all working with any databases. Then we're using so all the code is again the TypeScript. For the integration test we use Cypress. By the way, in Ever-Demand platform we do not have any tests yet. Historically it was done that way because we prototyped a lot of things, and we don't want to spend some time on the integration tests or unit tests before we understand how we want to build the system. Maybe it was not a good decision, but it's at the same time the platform is large, and now we have a better understanding how we want to build it, so we may start adding tests, and then in future switch to test driven development for that project as well. Yeah, so this is a list of technologies that we use. Again, the same structure for DevOps. I mean, we have Kubernetes deployment to Kubernetes clusters, and this time in the Gauzy it works, and the demo is running in Kubernetes as well as production. Then we have, of course, much more complex system to build the desktop applications for the Gauzy. The Electron applications, and then we use the same. We use Circle CI, we use GitHub Actions. I think it's basically just a very high level overview of both projects that we have. Thank you for listening to this, and have a good day. Bye.